Well, we're almost at the weekend. It's Thursday, the 7th of December, and we are looking ahead to what looks like a rather stormy later Sunday night into Monday as a cold front approaches with a deepening wave on it. And actually, this system is going to be impacting areas from the Mississippi River all the way to the East Coast. And we will talk about that and set up next week, which looks pretty uneventful, actually. That is all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and then you too can be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you make a purchase, whatever it is, whether it's the weather station or any of the other lovely gadgets and gizmos that are on the Tempest by WeatherFlow website, be sure to use that fabulous coupon code, I want a weather station. Because if you do, or if you don't, then you will be leaving how much on the table, Joe?
If you do that, you'll be paying 1/10 the amount less for the product that you are purchasing from Tempest. In
Right,
other words,
but if you don't do it, then you're going to leave 10% on the table.
correct.
Okay, so make sure you do it.
Yes.
Joe informed me just before we started that today is an anniversary of sorts.
Well, this was the first time 5 years ago on this date. This was the first time that we did a remote Joe and Joe. I did not apparently come into work that particular day, December 7th, 2018. So instead, what we did was I was here at home at my home office, which is where I'm at now, and Joe was at the Fios One news.
The Fios One, the weather shoebox.
The weather shoebox, and so we did a first remote Joe and Joe, and that was 5 years ago. And I believe I also brought on Mrs. Rayo.
Oh, you did?
Viewing audience. So, yes.
Well, how enchanting. How come I have absolutely no recollection of this whatsoever?
It came up on my Facebook memories page.
Really?
So, and I could actually have sat down and watched the whole thing, but I didn't want to. But I did see it. I did see enough of it to say, "Oh, this is amazing. This is the first time."
So that was in 2018?
Right.
So shortly before that, we have that friendship thing that we did that was on, that came up. Because I believe that was also a 2018 thing.
And that was something that was posted originally on our news anchor, Courtney Kane's Facebook page. And I guess she forwarded it over to me, and, the rest is history.
Yeah, I guess we can call it that. Yes, it is, and we're still at it. We're still lurking about, and as far as we know, we plan to be lurking about for quite a while. So
TV shows are best forgot.
Ours will be hot. Well, welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight, to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And for those of you who are not on the chat board, but instead decide to just lurk quietly and secretly in the background, we'd just like to extend the invitation. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, or maybe you have some questions, or if you don't want to do that, you could always leave comments on my YouTube channel, on the specific podcast. Make sure you subscribe and turn your notifications on so that this way you don't miss us, because we are on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Usually we take Fridays and Saturdays off unless there's a storm. So this doesn't exactly qualify, Joe, because we're going to come on Sunday night in the thick of it. So I don't think there's anything new that we could tell people tomorrow or Saturday about what's going to happen Sunday. It looks pretty straightforward at this stage, and it's going to be rough for a while.
But fortunately, the rough part will be when many of us are in bed. So the best thing that could happen to all of us is that we wake up the next morning, look out the window, and say, "Hey, it's wet out there." The next on the list would be you wake up and see that your digital radio alarm clock is blinking, meaning that you lost power temporarily, but it came back and everything is fine. And the worst thing is that you wake up to a house that has no electricity because during the overnight hours, the winds blew down a power line or two and plunged your neighborhood into darkness and into a lack of any electricity. But those are the things that we're looking at, along with the fact that we may be also looking at least 1 to possibly in excess of 2 inches of rain, and a good deal of that will probably fall again during the overnight hours of Sunday night, Monday morning. In fact, Joe, it looks like, based upon what I was looking at with the GFS and also with the European, it looks like the worst of this system is going to be moving on through between 1 and 4 a.m. on Monday morning.
Correct. I'm in complete agreement with you on that. And it's not just in the Northeast that we're dealing with this, but this system is going to be impacting everybody pretty much east of the Mississippi, well, along and east of the Mississippi River. There's going to be severe weather across the South. Some upside here is the fact that we are going to see rainfall in the South and Southeast in an area that's been sorely lacking of rainfall overall, although they have gotten some in the last couple of weeks, but they still need a lot more to get out of this drought situation that has extended since the mid and late summer. So all of these add up and are good things. I actually passed one of the rivers here, and the Notley River, and on the south side of the river, on the south side of the Notley Dam, is Lake Notley, and of course the rivers that drain into Lake Notley, which include the Notley River. So what they do here is, Joe, they alternately raise and lower the levels of the lake in order to send water downstream, because this is all part of the Tennessee Valley Authority, and they make electricity out of it. But I noticed, because of the lack of rainfall, it's just you could walk across, okay, with just maybe getting your shoes wet when you get to the middle. I mean, that's how low they've drained it. They've had to drain it all the way down, and just the total lack of rainfall here in the last, since the end of August. That was the last big rain we had here, which was a huge flood, and I don't think we've had more than an inch and a half in the last 3 months. So we could use a few more systems like this.
You may be eating your words.
Well,
I know this. What you just mentioned was exactly what the folks in California were saying at this time last year. Boy, we could use a few of these kind of storms.
Well,
and 18 atmospheric rivers later.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's pretty safe to say that I don't have 18 atmospheric rivers staring at me anytime soon. Believe me, the last big rainfall here was back in late August, when we got anywhere from 5 to 7 inches in about 5 hours time, and it was huge floods in town. Rivers all the way up and over the bridge. I had posted some pictures on it, so we got a ways to go before there's any problem with flash flooding, because the rivers are so low. Joe Arabia bangs the tip jar. Thank you, Joe Arabia, for hitting Super Chat tonight. And he says, thank you for your forecast. We appreciate your expertise. I appreciate you being here, Joe. Thank you. Love having the audience here. And there's someone else hit the tip jar tonight, and that was Paul Roman. Paul Roman hits Super Chat. Thank you, Paul. And happy holidays to you and to your family, because he wished us happy holidays. So I guess we should get this underway, Joe, and we could start off. Now, there's no watches or warnings up. It's too early for that. But I'm thinking wind advisory, and maybe for some of the coastal counties of New Jersey and perhaps Long Island and southern New England, and southeastern New England, that they might go for a high wind warning.
I think it's a little early in the ball game. I know that there were a few. Well, I know Albany, for example, is indicating on their possible severe outlook, looking ahead, that there may be problems late Sunday, early Monday with rain and also wind. New York City has not posted anything like that yet, but we're still a few days away, and it looks more and more like we're going to be seeing activity ramp up during the latter part of Sunday and into Sunday night. This weekend, if you have anything planned out of doors, such as moi, who plans to put up a lot of the outdoor holiday lighting, Saturday is most definitely the day. I think, Joe, will see temperatures like last Saturday in the low to mid 50s. Not much in the way of wind, dry. It'll probably be more cloudy than sunny, but that certainly is going to be the better of the 2 weekend days. Showers, I think, may even already be entering the picture during the early part of the day on Sunday, and it looks like to me, if you want you look at the overview of things, it looks like 24 hours from noon Sunday to noon Monday of steady precipitation, and begin the heavy duty stuff hitting us in the after midnight hours Sunday night into early Monday morning.
And here in the southeast, probably going to get into some rain later Saturday night and through at least part of Sunday, and probably some thunderstorms. And I think we're also, some areas are going to see a couple of inches of rain, particularly in western North Carolina and northern Georgia, and going back into northern Alabama. We'll cover it with WPC in a moment, but you'll notice on the watches and warnings, there's nothing up yet. It's way too early. And we've got some winter weather advisories up in western North Dakota, eastern Montana, western Montana, northern Idaho, southern Idaho, western Wyoming, eastern Wyoming has high wind warnings, central Colorado has winter weather advisories. There's no rhyme or reason to all of this. It's just sort of some places yes, some places no, mountains versus valleys, etc. But that's no major storms are on the map tonight. So it's the energy that's coming into the west that's going to make the system for the weekend and produce a strong cold front. So there's that. On the satellite loop, did you get any snow today, Joe?
Ever so slightly, we had some spotty flakes in the air from time to time, but just like yesterday, no big deal. No, nothing to really write home about.
Yeah, there were areas in eastern Pennsylvania and down to southern New Jersey into Maryland, and then, of course, back up into central Pennsylvania. There was a band of steady snow. I actually saw a couple of moderates in central PA. I'm thinking on the, close to where the mountains, there were probably some lift, going on with the upper trough and the west wind that probably triggered that off. But this upper trough did hold together. It's actually sort of a warm front, really, that's getting ready to push through. I mean, it's not analyzed as such, but it's going to function that way because we're going to see our winds bend back westerly tomorrow, then go southwest, and temperatures are going to be on the rise. So tomorrow will bounce from today. I would imagine a lot of places had a tough time getting out of the 30s today.
35 was our high temperature for today here in Putnam
Wow.
Valley. 35 degrees.
We were 21 here this morning. I got to 52 though.
Yeah, tomorrow it should be better. Tomorrow we should be at least, I would say 10 or even 12 degrees milder than what we had. And also tomorrow we should have a fair amount of sunshine veiled by a few thin high clouds. In fact, the cloud cover that we had much of the day today pretty well has cleared out now. Last time I took the dog out, I was able to see a few stars and Jupiter in the sky. So it has cleared out nicely. And again, tomorrow, with more sun, a few thin clouds, temperatures should be back up in the 40s. And we're aiming for, I think, probably low 50s or maybe even mid 50s when we get to Sunday. Sadly, we're going to probably be close to 60 on Sunday. I say sadly because we really won't be able to enjoy much of it because of the cloud cover, of the wet weather, the rain, and the winds, which will be revving up again beginning later Sunday, and especially so during the overnight hours on Sunday night.
I drew in the upper flow over the satellite because the thing that stood out to me today was the fact that much of the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, down to northern Florida, back across most of the Gulf states, bits of Texas, and then on up into the northern plains and Great Lakes, just almost cloud. Most places, not all, had cloud-free skies. So that upper high is building into the east, and then we've got a trough in the western part of the U.S. that continues to sort of feed in all this energy into the northwest. I'm not good at drawing arrows with my mouse, but you get the idea. And well, that's the system that's going to move southeastward and then eastward into the southern plains and then lift up toward the Great Lakes, trailing cold front with that, and then a developing wave on it as the front moves to the east. The radar at the moment, as we check it out, there's just still a couple of patches here of snow aloft in upstate New York. Otherwise, the radars are nice and quiet up and down the eastern seaboard. You got to go all the way back to the Dakotas, where we've got some snow and some rain down in South Dakota. And then further west, as we go to the Pacific Northwest, getting moisture coming in with patchy showers and snow up in the Cascades. The folks at WPC have rainfall-wise, they kind of upped this a little bit today. So they've got now 2 inches for much of northeastern and southeastern Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey to New York City, the Hudson Valley, and they actually have a stripe of 2.5 to 3 from northeast PA northeastward, so basically from the Poconos, Catskills, and then on up into western Mass and southern Vermont. So they've gone a little bit more on the upside here. The guidance I thought was pretty impressive, Joe, because the European gave like between 1.5 inches and 2.25 inches, and the GFS gave a lot of 2 to 2.5 inches. I think that's fair. Either whichever one you want to go with. I think either one is acceptable.
I think so. Yeah, but like I said, it looks like at least in I'm playing it conservative when I say one. It's more than anything else. Everybody's going to get 1 to in excess of 2 inches. And again, a lot of that. This is the problem. A lot of that total, whatever you may receive. Let's say you do get 2 inches. A lot of it is probably going to be concentrated into that time frame from midnight to dawn on Monday morning, and a lot of that will come down rather hard and be combined with gusty, strong winds, which is why we're concerned to a degree about the situation regarding wind and rain overnight, Sunday night, Monday morning. And Joe, the Storm Prediction Center did not place our area, at least yet, in any kind of threat for thunderstorms. They do talk about it with that cold front, but they think that instability may be a bit modest, and I think they're just waiting.
Well, they blew it. They missed it the last. Wasn't it the last time it rained? They had some severe weather in western New York, and they had no mention of any thunderstorms at all.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you, but looking at the dynamics, I don't think it causes anybody any harm to mention the fact that there could be a thunderstorm or two in the mix.
No, and I whether or not, and the interesting is, last Sunday, I think it was, in parts of western and central New York and Pennsylvania, there were actually severe thunderstorms.
Yes.
They didn't even mention anything about that as a possibility. So who's to say that maybe we might be looking at a shot at severe weather again this coming Sunday night with this approaching cold front?
I do have SPC's forecast, and they've got a marginal risk for Friday into Saturday for eastern Oklahoma and much of Arkansas, northeast Texas into southwestern Missouri. The next day, which is the day 3 outlook, and that is Saturday into Sunday morning, they have a large area of marginal to slight risk in the lower Mississippi Valley, I guess we could call it that, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, East Texas, much of Louisiana, West Mississippi, southeast Arkansas, southeastern half of Arkansas, and southwest Tennessee, all in a slight risk. I still think that they might go to a small area of enhanced and maybe put up some tornado risk. We'll see what they do with this tomorrow. Yeah, day 4 through 8, John. Day 4, it's predictability too low. So tomorrow it's in the day 3 time frame, so they'll have to do something. I can't imagine they're not going to put at least some general thunderstorms. I mean,
look at that day 3 diagram that you have up on the screen right now. It almost looks like there's a finger pointing toward northwestern Pennsylvania. Now, just by simple extrapolation for day 4, which would be that period that we're looking at for late Sunday, early Monday, certainly there should be something spread across the Atlantic seaboard in terms of general thunderstorm coverage. But again, they don't have it posted yet, but I think they will. They think that something will come up.
Johnny Quest just hits the tip jar, and thank you, Johnny, for hitting super chat tonight. There's a strong cyclone getting to, I think it's Jasper, I believe, getting ready to hit Australia. If we could look at that, if we get a minute. Okay, I'll try to do that after we finish off with this. And 75 likes so far, which isn't too shabby. Thank you for those of you who hit the like button. Still plenty of time if you haven't to take us over 100 likes, because Joe and I like to go over 100 likes. Makes us feel good. Makes us feel useful. Makes us feel wanted. Makes us feel like we've accomplished something. Doesn't it make you feel that way, Joe?
It makes us feel relevant.
Yes, exactly. Okay, snow-wise, this is the probability for at least 2 between now and Sunday evening. And you'll notice it's in North Dakota. It's also in Idaho, western Montana, southeastern Idaho, western Wyoming, much of central and western Colorado, and also in the Cascades. And if we switch to the probability of at least 8, there are some areas here, particularly in Washington State and northern Idaho, where there's a high probability that they're going to get at least 8 inches out of this. And obviously in the east, we don't have that issue. And in fact, if I put the probability for 2, and this is through Sunday evening, by the way, nothing in the east, but you do see some in the upper peninsula of Michigan where there's a 50% or higher chance. Now, on the long range, which sort of conflicts with this, so I guess in a sense, we could just say that this is for Sunday night into Monday. On the long range, WPC, there it is, has the light green is a 10 to 30% chance for at least a few inches. The darker green is 30 to 50. The blue that's in eastern West Virginia is 50 to 70. I still think, just based on what I saw today, Joe, I still think it's a fair chance that those areas, pretty much where the WPC's got the green, the light green, are there those areas I think are going to see a changeover to snow before it ends, and maybe if some places like the Poconos, the Catskills, particularly in the higher elevations, and then pushing up northward, say toward the Adirondacks, I think some of those places are certainly going to see at least a few inches out of this.
I'm just looking here, Joe, on the chat board. I'm a little confused. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. It looks like Johnny Quest hit the tip jar twice. Is that possible?
No.
Okay, I'm getting some strange.
Johnny Quest, Paul Roman, and Joe Arabia were our 3 super chat hits tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yes, no, that's all good. So anyway, just go back to the snow question. I mean, you were talking about this yesterday too. Still on that page?
Right.
Are you still on the same page?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Right.
You have nothing to add.
Right now, the page is being blocked by JBL makes earbuds for everyone.
Oh, no, I'm saying WPC's got this light green area of 10 to 30.
Now I'm back.
Okay.
Now I'm back. These ads are annoying. They drop in at the last out of nowhere. It's
well. I'm sure Google is appreciative of the fact that you find them annoying. I mean, they do pay the bills, but that's okay.
I understand, but when you're trying to point something important out to me, and all of a sudden I'm seeing somebody advertising earbuds, it makes it difficult to stay with the conversation here.
All right.
But yes, I'm looking at right now what you're showing. Monday, December 11th, the probability for any kind of winter weather or measurable precipitation, and it shows that my area is out of it, but just a stone's throw away to the north and west, there looks to be a 10 to 30% chance for some kind of frozen precip, liquid equivalent of snow and sleet of upwards to 1/4 of an inch.
All right. I it's whatever's going to happen is going to happen quick, because it's just going to change, come down hard for a few hours, and then it's going to just end. It's just going to shut off. Uh, from what I'm seeing. So from that point, now let's see. How about we go to the GFS and take a look? And this is the 12Z. I haven't even looked at the 18Z today, so we'll look at it together for the first time. So I'm thinking for gusts to 40 to 50 maybe for Sunday night.
Well, it sounds like that is certainly a distinct possibility right along the immediate coastline of the Sound Shore of Westchester, and especially so along the South Shore of Long Island and the coastal Jersey Shore. Whether or not we see that, well, I don't think we're going to see it that strong up here where I am, but 30 to 40 mile per hour winds, yeah, I could certainly accept something like that for us in the overnight hours of Sunday night, Monday morning.
Well, that's why I'm kind of thinking that this was going to be, wind advisory and maybe high wind warnings for the coastal Jersey counties, Long Island, southern Connecticut, that kind of thing, southeastern New England, maybe get the high wind warning, and everybody else just gets a wind advisory. I mean, it's just, it's a technicality. It's going to be windy. It's going to blow away, and it's probably going to take a few trees down along with it. I think that's pretty much how this is all going to work.
At the very least, a few tree limbs down. And let me tell you, maybe you don't necessarily want to see the tree come down, but there are some trees with limbs that are pretty heavy and can cause damage too.
Yeah. So as we roll the GFS along, so obviously there's no issues tomorrow. In fact, much of the eastern half of the U.S. is fine and dandy for tomorrow. And then Saturday, you start to see there's a system that's rolling across Minnesota and up in Canada, and some showers that break out in Illinois and Iowa, and then they sort of tail down into Louisiana and Texas, and then that wave goes out, and then another wave as the front moves eastward develops, and this is Saturday evening, a low in eastern Arkansas, and it's from this that we'll probably see severe weather as indicated by WPC. I'm sorry, by SPC, and then that low goes up into western Pennsylvania Sunday morning. Now, you look at it at this point, and it just really almost looks like a stick. There's some heavy rains in there, Ohio, eastern Kentucky, central Tennessee, but it's sort of, I don't know, it is a sharp back edge and kind of a sharpish front edge, but the models are all suggesting that during Sunday afternoon, as you get more Gulf moisture in there, you get more Atlantic moisture. You can see thunderstorms firing up in southern Georgia to the Florida Panhandle and offshore, and also some heavy rains, southern West Virginia, western North Carolina, western Virginia. All of a sudden, the rain just really fills in and goes crazy. This is at 1 a.m. I mean, I'm trying to see if I can off the top of my head do these rainfall rates. So let's see, how do they, the rain, it says, is that 4/10, 6 hours, and then another 4/10 after. I don't know. It's hard for me to figure it out off the scale. I'm not exactly sure what those, doesn't say what those numbers mean. But I'm sorry, my fault, wrong page. These are radar echoes. I'm sorry, for a minute there I thought I was on the other page. It actually does precip amounts. These are the DBZ numbers. But the radar's pretty impressive on the GFS. Even Monday morning at 7 a.m., the back edge of the rain is still in eastern PA. So it's slower. We do like Dave Tolleris said last night it would be.
Well, I've been reading Dr. Judith Cohen's comments in recent days, and one of the things that he wrote about today was that he is really struck, Joe, by the contrast in the predicted temperature anomalies across Eurasia and North America. And it appears that over Eastern Europe and most of Asia, it is frigidly cold.
Yes.
Meanwhile, widespread warmth projected for North America, for not just now, but for much of the month of December. And somebody commented or answered Dr. Cohen backwards, saying that it seems like it's like that every year. Cold and snow always stay in Russia, but then Dr. Cohen responded with, actually not true. And since 2013, I don't know if you were aware of this, Joe, but North America has been king of cold, relatively, of course. But he does also point out that it is, and we spoke about this yesterday with Dave Tolerus, that the expectation is that the U.S. will have wall-to-wall warmth, finally showing a transition to colder weather sometime over the upcoming winter holidays, which would be after, I guess, from December 25th onward.
I'm
So,
going to just say something here.
okay,
I'm just going to say something here, and this kind of has been nagging me for the last few days, but now I will just make it public. I am really starting to question. I am beginning to question whether this is going to be just like, like last year, in the sense that we keep seeing models doing things in the long range and it never gets here. For one thing, if we go back a couple of weeks ago, there wasn't supposed to be a trough in the West. Okay, if there was, it was supposed to be brief. That turned out to be different. There wasn't supposed to be, an upper low in Alaska, which is almost always not good for cold weather in the east. And that's there. And I'm just starting to wonder, because first everybody, it's like, well, it's the 15th, 16th. Then it was the 19th, 20th. Now it's Christmas. And no, I'm serious. I'm really beginning to think that that this pattern change. Now maybe I'm just being negative, and maybe I'm just being frustrated, and I'll give you that. And I see the same maps everyone is seeing, okay? But it is, it's I'm I would like to see this, supposed pattern change get into that window inside 168 hours so I can feel better about it. Um, and I'm starting to wonder whether we're gonna just keep waiting and waiting and waiting, and then suddenly it's mid-January and it still hasn't happened. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm just being, a negative Nelly here, but I needed to say that and put that on the table.
now this is going to be a strange analogy. And for those of you, and I think most of you have seen the movie King Kong, I'm not talking about the various revivals that occurred during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm talking about the original King Kong, 1933, where
With Fay Ray.
Fay Ray, and she was rescued by, I forget who the actor's name was, but they get back to camp. King Kong is running after them. They have this gigantic wall that they have built to keep King Kong out of the village or whatever. And now here's King Kong at the wall, and you see how he's banging at the wall, and then he's using all of his might to try to push the wall down. And meanwhile, everybody on the other side is trying to hold the wall back. That's in a way what I think is happening, or will be happening in a meteorological sense later this month. That the cold air from Siberia, the cold air that we're seeing covering Eurasia now, is going to start pushing and pushing and pushing. And, eventually, I don't know when it's going to happen, Joe, but I think eventually, either at the end of this month or at the beginning of January, there's going to be a complete breakthrough. And it's not
See,
just going
but even you have kind of acknowledged now that now, instead of being in the middle of this month, instead of being, the 19th and 20th, instead of being around Christmas, now you've pushed it to the very beginning of January.
to, it's got to happen. It has to happen.
I'm looking at this upper air on this. It's the in between run. Honestly, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me which run you look at. Um, in some ways, Dave made a big point last night about the Pacific, and I totally agree with him that you really need to watch to see what goes on in the Pacific. And the Pacific is not terrible, but it's still not where you need it to be. And if you notice, there's some kind of upper low there north of the Yukon that's got troughing into Alaska, and basically that just cuts off. There's no real connection to cold air in northwest Canada coming down anytime between now and the 23rd of December. I mean, I've got it pulled out here in 384 hours, and this is not pretty. All right, it just isn't.
I don't know, Robert Hill, who Eric Snodgrass is.
He is. I do. I do. I saw his winter forecast. He's with that. It's a Canadian company, Nutrient.
Uh-huh.
Nutrient. Um, that's the videos I sent you back 2 months ago.
Okay. All right. He's saying insisting that winter could be backloaded like January and February.
Well, of course, because now that we're through December, we're in the early part of December, and the upper pattern
Sure.
does look kind of hopeless at this stage. That
And Shrubby says Kong is taking his time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at the ensembles. I mean, the ensembles again aren't terrible. I would like to see more of a negative EPO, and it's not quite there. I just want to go back to the zero Z because that's the one that goes all the way out, to 35 days. Let's
I don't
see.
remember Cecilia Hernandez. I don't remember saying. I don't remember even issuing a winter forecast saying above normal snow for Washington, New York, and Boston. The only winter forecast that I had issued, if you want to call it a forecast, is that in New York, in Central Park, in years where we have a paucity, that's a nice $5 word, isn't it? A lack of any significant snowfall. We only had about 2.5 inches of snow at the park last winter. That in those years when we have winters where snow measurements are in the single digits at Central Park, that the following winter usually comes back pretty big time, making up for all of the snow that we missed out on the previous winter. So as I'm saying, this winter we should have enough snow to make all the snow lovers happy in New York. I never said anything about Washington. I never said anything about Boston. I didn't tie any of those cities together. I only said that in New York, if you look at the 4 or 5 winters where we've had single digit snowfall numbers in the wintertime, that the following winter we picked up, like 8 or 10 or 12 times more snow, making up for what we had missed out the previous year. Maybe not making up for what we had, but certainly giving the snow lovers something to be happy about. And that's all I'm saying for this year is that I think that we are going to see some significant snow or snows for this upcoming winter season. And please look at your calendar. It is the 7th of December. We're still in fall. We're not even into winter yet from an astronomical sense, although we are meteorologically into snow, into winter now on December the 1st. But I do believe, Joe, that we will see something different. It's not going to be like last year. We are going to see some snows, and we are going to see some cold weather, at least in the tri-state New York area. What happens in Philadelphia? What happens in Washington? What happens in Boston? Well, we'll
We'll
see.
see. Well, I'm looking at the zero Z from I went back and looked at the one on the 4th, and I'm looking at the zero Z here now, which goes beyond 300. And this is the 384 hours. So this is the 23rd of December. And you do start to see the upper air improve right around Christmas time. I mean, improve in the sense that it takes a colder turn, and you start to see the troughing in Alaska shrinking out. Only goes out to 486 hours, um, but it's still there. I just want to take a look at one thing just for laughs. So this was the 384, which still has ridging.
What did Dave Tolerus? What time frame? He showed one specific map, and he said, "Look at that! Look at that!" I'm not sure if that was for the time frame right after Christmas or the beginning of the new year, but he really was getting very excited.
Yeah.
Look at that
Well, the
upper air.
the ensembles, the ensemble, or the Ann Shambles, as we like to call her, or Ann Sambles. Um, I mean, the ensembles here on today's late run, start to turn things colder around the 20th, the 21st. Starts to, more troughing in the east. Kind of a bit of a connection up into northwest Canada. I mean, this is the smoothed out look. Who knows how it actually looks in reality? But it's a long ways away. It's still. I mean, it's the better almost 2 weeks from now. I just keep thinking it's going to be, a week from now, we're going to be saying, oh, it's going to be in 2 weeks. And then a week after that, we're going to be saying, up, it's going to be in another 2 weeks. And then suddenly it's February. And I don't know. Again, I might just be reacting to the fact that, um, sometimes when you look at these models, over the course of days and weeks, and you think what's going to happen, and then you get thrown a curveball, and it just gets, a bit frustrating from a forecasting standpoint. But again, I may just be being emotional here.
Could you undisable participant screen sharing so that I could possibly
Oh,
provide
okay.
a.
By all means, and then I'm just going to step away for just a second to get I need a glass of water. My room's on fire. Oh, I'll harm you. Here we go. I'll be back in
you
1 second. You got the screen and
you do it. I'll give you such a
a pinch.
pinch.
Yes, exactly. All right. Go ahead. You got it. I'm just
Well,
waiting for you to
Joe.
bring it up there.
Yeah. So while Joe wets his whistle, ladies and gentlemen, let me. And somebody on the chat board said this is the most depressing Joe and Joe show he has seen in quite some time. So I'm going to make you even more depressed by showing you the Climate Prediction Center's 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. This was issued today, the 7th of December, and this is valid for the period from the 15th through the 21st of December, just 4 days before Christmas. And for all of you who are saying maybe we might have a white Christmas this year, well, I want to tell you something. Take a look at this. In the Dakotas, in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, Iowa, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a 70 to 80% probability of above normal temperatures. This might be one of the first times in many a year where, let's say, Minneapolis or Milwaukee doesn't have a white Christmas. No snow on the ground because supposedly it looks like the temperatures may be too warm for that. And here in the east, here in the northeast, we have something like 50 to 60% probability of above normal temperatures right here in little old New York. Take a look. All of that orange and all of that red indicating above normal temperatures for the mid to the days just before Christmas time. And if you're wondering about precipitation, you say, well, we'll probably have some wet weather to deal with. Well, guess what? The folks over at Climate Prediction Center are saying that there's not going to be much chance of that. Below normal probabilities of precipitation covering much of the Northeast, or at least New England and New York State, going back to the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes. So it appears, Joe, that after we get past this coming meteorological hemorrhage coming our way Sunday night into early Monday, once we get past that, it would appear that all the way out to the 21st of December, I believe this year winter starts on the 22nd.
All right.
So for the final few days of fall, it looks like mild and relatively dry weather for a good chunk of the country, especially so Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and northeastern United States.
I won't argue with you, Joe. Johnny Quest asked that we take a look at
Jasper?
Jasper. Oh, I've got a shot of Jasper here off Tropical Tidbits, the enhanced satellite view. Pretty well defined here. Top wind's 115 knots. So that's, what's that, 130? So it's a Cat 4.
It's heading for Queensland in northeastern Australia.
Yes.
And I believe they didn't call them. I don't believe that they called them hurricanes or even typhoons. They called them willy willies.
Yeah, willy willy cyclones. This is tropical cyclone Jasper. 14.2 south, 156.6 east. Top winds at 115. Minimum central pressure of 942 millibars. And we can look at the GFS forecast ensemble track, and there you have it. They kind of hold its own here. Actually, it brings the pressure up over time, but that's the ensembles that do that, so it's hard to tell. It crosses, I'm not sure what those islands are. that are to the east of northeastern Australia. But it takes it southwest and then turns it west or west northwest and then brings it inland there. It's that time of year, folks. Everything is in the land in the land down under. And here's the forecast, the way they've got the map drawn. So they actually have it weakening down to 70 knots as it approaches Cairns, Cairns. I don't know how to pronounce that.
What is it? How do you spell it again? Carnes.
Cairns.
Carnes.
Harns
Yes.
with an H sound?
I believe that's how they pronounce it over
Really?
there.
Okay.
Like
All right.
you look at Melbourne, for example. They pronounce it not Melbourne. They pronounce it Melbourne.
Melbourne. Yes. And Sydney? Did they pronounce that Sydney?
I guess they pronounce it Sydney. I'm not sure.
All right.
I've been trying to convince Renata we're gonna up and move to Australia in 2025, depending upon certain circumstances. But
Okay, I guess. Why not?
I've never been to Australia.
No, neither have I. I've always wanted to go. It's it's a long flight.
By the way, if you've ever saw the last, Timmy and Lassie, and Timmy was always falling into a well, and Lassie was always saving him. I mean, this was a very special dog. How many times did Lassie save Timmy's life? And eventually, Timmy, who was played by John Provost, the actor, he said, and this is amazing, he was like maybe 8 years old. He finally said, I don't want to play this role anymore.
Right.
So they had to come up with some kind of a new storyline where Timmy's parents decide they're going to relocate and move to Australia. And
of course, because everybody was doing that in those days.
Right. And unfortunately, according to the rules, you cannot bring a dog into Australia until 6 months have passed. They have to pen the dog up and put him in quarantine for a while. Like, obviously, they wasn't going to do that to Lassie. And I think the parting of Timmy and Lassie, Timmy just simply looked at Lassie and just walked away. Everybody was waiting for a big scene where he was going to cry his eyes out, and no, Timmy just said goodbye, girl, and just walked away. And that's how the Timmy and Lassie relationship ended. If you don't believe me, you can look on it and find it on YouTube.
Oh, I don't have any doubt you're telling the truth, that you just make this up. By the way,
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And the fact that Lassie probably had Lassie had top billing. Anyway, Anthony says it's KMs, KAYEMS, KMs.
KM? Maybe I'm looking at something different. I thought it would look like. How did you spell it? CAR?
CARINS. And Anthony says it's pronounced KMs.
Oh, okay.
I guess.
Hey, I don't speak Australian.
No, and neither do I. 126 likes tonight. Thank you. I think it's Thursday night. It's time to go. It's been a long week. I got all my Christmas shopping done, so I'm happy. You gonna ring the bell?
I haven't got anything yet done.
Didn't you ring the? Aren't you gonna ring? You're not gonna ring the bell and make me tone?
I did ring it.
I didn't even hear it.
Yeah, that burn out your eardrums, or
no? Not. Yeah, it was getting close, but it for some reason it didn't kill me today.
I didn't know that. Christianpedia says that John Provost was 14 when he told them that he didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I thought he was only 7 or 8 years old. So anyway.
Oh well. All right, everybody. So we'll be back Sunday night at 7:35. We'll hold any any Briller Jeopardies until then, and super chats tonight. Thank you very much from
Joe Arabia, Johnny Quest, and Paul Roman. Thank you.
And thank you for the 134 likes. And everybody have a safe weekend, and we'll see you Sunday night at 7:35. Nighty night.
Nighty night, folks.